Welcome to our esteemed agents and investors from across the country. Today is Thursday, August 1st, 2024, and this is All the Leads Mastermind podcast number 489. Tim, I'm expecting a few people on the call today, but and you people that said you would be here that had questions, please don't be shy about asking them. In the meantime, Tim, it's all yours.
Okay, well, that's really a nice filler there, Jim. Uh, hey, listen, thank you guys for being here. So we said in our email that went out a little bit earlier that we were going to talk a good bit about divorce today, and just kind of want to set the stage for that. We've introduced the divorce product 2 or 3 months ago. We've had a lot of success. A lot of people have become part of our family with that product. A lot of you who are previous and current probate subscribers have added that product. So we want to spend a little time talking about it today and then kind of tell you where we're going with it and kind of let you know what we're doing and keep you abreast of the things that we're dealing with to make it better. So that's kind of what we're going to start with today. And I'll just kind of talk a little bit about it. And what I would ask that you do is take careful note of the fact that on the bottom of your Zoom screen, there is a thing called a raise hand. And if you've got a question, that's what you're supposed to click on. If you've got something you'd like to say, good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is, please, jump right on it and raise your hand, and we'll be happy to talk with you. We want to hear anything you have to say. And this call always takes off in a good direction when we get great participation from you. And you sure don't want to listen to me for the whole time. Jim, I'll give you the opportunity to say
Amen.
Well, I will interrupt you to tell you I've been corrected. This is call number 490. We're not doing 489 twice. So thank you.
Good job, Steve.
Good job, Steve.
You had one job, Jim. One job.
What can I say?
So let's talk about our product to begin with, and it's probably the key element in the product. There are other places in the world that report to sell divorce leads and do, and divorce leads are available lots of places, and they're available already on decree, and the value of those is marginal. And the reason for that is that once the divorce has been decreed and the court has settled it and the two folks are no longer husband and wife, anybody who's going to move has already moved. Most of the real estate transactions have been done. There are still opportunities available, but they're not the same. So ours are only on filing. We can't get them in every county. We are getting better and better at getting them in every county, and we get them in almost every major market. And I'm not going to sit here and specify the ones we can't and can. That's why we have a system that identifies that, and we literally only run our advertising online in the counties that we can get it. So if you're seeing our ad, you know that it's available in your county. But we get them on filing. And so if you think about what that means, think about the fact that, and I'm not going to ask if any of you've been divorced, but if you have, and you have that experience, you know that somebody's going to move somewhere almost immediately. If a divorce gets filed, generally somebody's moving out. And so they're either going to go couch surf for a while, or they're going to seek an apartment. If they know it's going to be permanent, they're going to find a place to live. So there's one opportunity. It's an opportunity for anyone who's managing property to help someone find a place. Second thing is that if the house is jointly owned, if there's real estate jointly owned, in order to settle the divorce, typically a disposition has to be reached on that. If there are multiple properties, oftentimes they're sold. It's also possible that if there are children involved, the decree will contain the ability for whoever the custodial parent is, the husband or the wife, to be able to stay in the house until a school milestone occurs. And that, when I say milestone, it isn't always until they get out of school. It used to kind of be that way. It's like, well, you can stay in the house until the kid gets out of high school. The oldest child graduates from high school. It's not that way anymore. We're in a much more mobile society. So now it's usually whenever the next milestone for the child or children arrives. So if they're coming out of middle school, coming out of elementary school, those are milestones. And they take all those things into consideration. At that point, that house may be required to be sold. So those are things to be aware of as well. So that's another opportunity there. Now, if there's property that's been sold, it's also possible that both husband and wife have some money to spend to go buy new property. So whether they're moving into rental property or buying, again, there are at least potentially two more opportunities there. So at a minimum, we think there may be as many as 5 instant opportunities or opportunities that will occur over some period of time in a on filing divorce listing. So there's a lot of opportunity there, both for investor side and for the realtor side. That's why we think it's important to do that. And we give you the husband, the wife, and we give you as much information as we can about how to get in touch with them and about the property that we can find that they jointly own and they can deal with, and the value of the property and all of that. What we're trying to get to help you do is to develop this as a pillar of your business. And what we mean by that is that it's something that you can focus on and you can build a team around to work on. What kind of a team does that look like? Is it radically different than probate? In some cases, it is. Not always, but in some cases, it is. There's one element that's very common in it, and that is that as you look at the leads, if you find that the same divorce attorney is handling a lot of business in your market, that's a divorce attorney you want to spend some time with and get to know better and all of that. So there's some good work to be done there, and we won't beat that up. We'll talk about that later. But I think the real value of this is to consider that the opportunities are there to get this done. So what other sources and what other resources do you need at your disposal? You may need moving companies. You may need packing companies. You may need to find realtors who, not realtors, mortgage brokers, who will lend and have lending resources, who will lend and not take into consideration there's an outstanding mortgage. There are mortgage companies now, lots of them, that will do that and that will offer a mortgage to someone without considering their debt load of the existing mortgage, knowing that it's going to be sold. So you need those mortgage brokers at your disposal so that you can have those kinds of conversations. And there are other things certainly like that that apply. The other side of it is that the discussion that you need to be having with the person that you're talking to, whether it's husband or wife, is significantly different in regard to the recognition of the circumstances they find themselves in. It's a traumatic time. It's a little bit different than probate. There's certainly a sense of loss in probate, but you don't always know that the personal representative has personally experienced that loss. You know that someone who's going through a divorce is going through probably one of the most traumatic periods of their life, in particular if there are children involved. So your approach has got to be tempered by that knowledge. You can't simply approach this and say, hey, I hear you and Sally are getting divorced. You gonna sell that house? Click, you're done, and they're coming for you. You're in big trouble. So there's a lot that goes with that. And we had Liz Becker on and we sort of began to roll this out. And she has a long course that she teaches in that. And of course, I think that's something that we're going to have her back on in a couple of weeks and get into that in some more depth. But I think even before that, as you begin to work these leads and you have the conversations that you have, you're going to find your sweet spot in terms of doing this. And you're going to find it by being the kind of person on the other end of the phone that you would want if you can find a way to put yourself in the person's shoes that you're talking to. And that's the very definition of empathy. It's not sympathy because you don't know the people that are involved. And we always kind of draw that line. It's not, you're not necessarily sympathetic, but you're empathetic. You can understand, you get it. And those are the things that you need to kind of focus on and be aware of. And so setting the stage for that, I'm going to ask if you're on and you've had some conversations and things that have come up, If there's some things that you'd like to talk about, this would be a great time to do those. And raise your hand and talk about anything that you run into. And we would love to, take your questions and talk to you about what to say, when to say it, what have you run into, what problems have you found, any of those kinds of things. And I asked our coaches to kind of join us and be aware of, what we're going to be talking about today. And so I'll start with Bruce a little bit and say, when you're dealing, Bruce, with people that, are dealing with divorce, long before we started offering this as a product, you're certainly having run into that in the course of your real estate career. What have you found unique about that?
Well, I think I was just jotting a couple of notes down and some statistics for you guys really quickly. Those of you that are stat nerds, those of you that aren't, bear with me for a second. But statistically, with probate, I know we're not talking about probate, so I'm just going to land on this and then move on. With probate, 67% of inherited real estate that's going through or connected somehow with an estate going through probate, 67% of that real estate is free and clear. The aging family member had the house for a long time. They've paid it off. And because of that, in probate, sometimes the families can afford to hold on a little bit longer. Okay. This is where you have conversations. Yeah, we haven't decided. We haven't had those discussions of what to do yet. We might in the future. Okay. So on the probate side, people can typically move a little bit slower, not on the divorce side. On the divorce side, I don't have the statistics for this, but I know from having worked with families going through divorce that normally time is not on their side. They're about to chop up what was one single household budget, and now all of a sudden it's becoming two budgets, and there's a big mortgage on the house. If they bought the house in the last couple of years, it might be upside down. So having short sale resources is going to be in your favor, and they have to go. They need to move very, very quickly. I'll tell you guys the best Christmas that I ever had started as the worst Christmas that I ever had. I'd worked with a couple to help them find a house and worked with them for about a month to find the perfect house. We put it under contract. We're a couple of weeks into contract, and I wake up to a text on Christmas morning saying, "We just decided to file for divorce. We can't buy the house that we're buying." Okay. Um, Terrible Christmas for them, for me, because I was a couple of days away from a closing. It was just a terrible Christmas all the way around. It turned out that the house that they were going to hold on to as a rental, they decided because of the divorce that they had to sell it, and they had to sell it right now. Each of them moved into short-term rentals, and each of them went and bought a house with me over the next couple of months. And subsequently, each one of them has sold that house that they bought individually. Each of them are remarried. They sold their houses that they bought individually through me, and each of them and their new families have purchased a property. So that's how my worst Christmas turned into my best Christmas gift ever. Maybe not best Christmas gift ever, but a great Christmas gift. Okay. So I just want you guys to know that a lot of times when these decisions are made in a family, they have to go now. They're making major, major life changes. Finances are changing, and they are going to have to sell instantly in many cases. I've personally been added into divorce decrees, not because I asked to be added into divorce decrees, but because I had such a great relationship with some clients, and when they decided to divorce, one of the spouses said, "Yeah, we'll do this, but Bruce has to be the one to sell the house." So I'm just telling you guys that when people make these decisions, a lot of times it's been coming for a while. And I see Tim laughing at something. I don't know what it is. A lot of times it's been
I
coming
figured
from
you're probably the reason they got divorced. That's why from the court papers they named you as a defendant.
nice. Yeah. Okay. So they need to move fast. They need to go. And in many cases, they've already been talking about it and thinking about it. So the emotion is gone from the decision in many cases. Of course, not every case, every instance, but a lot of times the emotion is gone from the decision because they made their decision 6 months ago and just It took a while to lead up to it. So I just want you guys to know that it's not quite as overwhelming for the family as you might think. And they a lot of times have to move faster than they would in other situations.
Well, and isn't the reality, Bruce, that, this is an opportunity, just like you said, you built a long relationship with now multiple families that, started with a real, horrible situation, and you were the right person to be there at the right time. That, voice of reason that helped them get through it. That's the only reason that you're on the paperwork there. And that's also the only reason that the first thing that you talked about, your Christmas Eve surprise that, turned into something really great. And it's because of the way you approach it. So, I mean, I think that's a key element. You approached it in the right way. I'm sure you didn't call them up and go, "What the hell's wrong with you? Why'd you do that?" You know, you probably were
I
from the
called and I said, "Hey, this is great. I get 3 deals out of it now." No.
perfect. I knew that would be the way you did it. Hey, Stephen, you've got your hand up. You were up first. I'll take you, and then Jim, and then Jessica. Stephen, if you'll unmute, what do you need there, buddy?
Yes, quick question. So what percentage of the probate leads actually turn into a listing? How many
Probate or divorce?
property?
Probate or divorce?
Right.
Okay, I think you said probate. It broke up. I find personally between 30 and 40%. It typically settles in a 35% range. So we assume that 70 to 80% have real estate, and half are going to sell in a relatively near term, inside of a year. So you get 100 leads, there's 35 sales in the average 100 leads within a year.
Right. And I think that the thing that you need to be aware of, and this is the point Bruce was making earlier, our feeling about this is that depending on the circumstances, and that's why we're bringing this up. We run pretty transparently. We want to hear back from you. We're going to be building data over the next year and a half with this product, and we'll have significantly better answers as we go, but it's all going to be anecdotal. And the reality is that as you approach this and you work with the people that you find, you're going to help us develop the statistical information. It's done by polling, and there are a lot of people out there asking these questions. Mortgage lenders ask the same questions, but it's what you're going to find. But our belief in this is that depending on the circumstances, if there are no children involved in the divorce, the chances are extremely good that if they jointly own property, it's going to get sold. And as Bruce said, that fuse gets lit pretty quickly because they were able to afford it together, unlikely to be able to afford it separately. And that's really the issue there. It's a breadwinner issue. Most families today are two-income families, and it takes two people to afford that. So, those are the things you got to be aware of. Very, very different than probate, and for that exact reason. Jimmy, you had a point there, bud. Unmute, bud. You're muted.
Got it. Stephen was actually asking about probate, but I suspect divorce and probate are going to be pretty similar. As a matter of fact, this morning I started calling some of our longest divorce subscribers, which are like 4 to 6 months. They've been doing it. And I reached out to about a half a dozen of them. And one thing that surprised me a little bit, we had kind of prefaced divorce with the fact that you don't have to wait until the probate's completed. They may occur a little quicker. The people I spoke to told me the good news is they're getting there quickly, but all of them said they were, after 3-4 months, they were just to the point where they were starting to set appointments. So these leads do season well. Their initial conversations where we just filed, we don't know what we're going to do yet. We're just getting started. So the fact is you may not have to wait, but the reality is I think you should approach it similar to probate. Expect that they're going to season well. You're going to build that relationship, and somewhere down the road, it's going to turn into a listing. And I suspect that to answer your question, Stephen, I suspect the percentage will probably be pretty similar to probate. We'll find out as we compile data. The other thing I wanted to comment on, Tim, you opened with saying you have to treat it a little bit differently. In the half a dozen conversations I had, Matter of fact, one of them, they just hired appointment today, the gentleman, and he just got his first appointment with Divorce Leads through having Probate Today actually make the calls for him. Let me hang up on that call that's ringing.
Challenges today. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I'm here. So I had an incoming call that I disconnected. But one thing that I did notice is we always say it's, one size doesn't fit all. Different approaches work for different people. Of the 6 people, 4 of them were just circle calling, and they said that was working well for them. 2 of them said they were very direct. They were calling and texting and saying, I know it must be a tough time for the family. You're going through a divorce, and that was working for them. So one of them is a foreclosure agent. He said he's used to being direct with people and saying, I know you're going through foreclosure. It's a tough time for the family. So, what approach works best? I would say, A/B test, or your personality, whether you're okay gently confronting people, or if you want to take a more roundabout approach and treat it like circle prospecting. But from my experience in these calls, both are working for our subscribers. So just wanted to add that. Yep.
Okay. Bruce, I'll get to you in a second. Jessica.
Yeah, no, thank you. I kind of actually, you touched on it just a tad bit, Tim. I just wanted to mention that a lot of times those individuals that are going through the divorce, whether they have children or not, sometimes they're so busy fighting amongst each other that they're not realizing the big picture of, if one person is really fighting to stay in the home, can they really afford it? So, being the agent coming in and just kind of bringing them back down to reality and bringing them to what the focus is on moving forward, gives them the sense of, okay, you're really fighting for the house, but is this something that you could truly afford after the divorce is final? Because the division of assets, courts can be so strategic, and they have their guidelines. So what sometimes you're expecting to receive out of the divorce isn't going to be what you think. And so when someone's really fighting to stay in the home, you being the agent, you're bringing them, again, like I said, back down to reality. And is this something that you really want to keep? And a lot of times, even just from people that I've spoken to, they stay in the house for 6 months after the divorce, and then they're like, oh, there's just too much emotion here. I got to sell it anyway. So again, it's just kind of bringing them that knowledge, letting them know, your experience, and then talking about what their goals are after the divorce and kind of steering them in that direction. So that's really kind of what I wanted to add, that sometimes those individuals that are really fighting to stay in the home, sometimes they just are not going to be able to afford it in the long run. And it's just letting them know that these are the situations and this is what I can help you with. Let's get you moved on to something else that's more within your budget.
You brought up a really good point, and that's, Bruce, will get to you in just a second, Bruce. And that is that, unfortunately, like you mentioned the term division of assets, it almost never fails. And I know this from talking to multiple divorce attorneys. When we started this process, we started digging in pretty heavily. And in almost every case, what they find is that one or the other of the parties typically knows more about their finances than other people do, than the other one does. And there are almost always some surprises when it comes down to exactly how much is in that checking account, how much is liquid, how much is the house worth, how much income was it taking to support this. It's this information. They typically don't have it at their fingertips. I mean, you think about yourself, and I know the same thing. I'm going through this right now. My wife and I are literally looking at, what does it cost to do all the things that we do every day? And we kind of go through this hopefully on an annual basis. And we're always surprised that, where the heck is all this money going? And people don't know. We just kind of float along, and we don't know. And when you're going through divorce, can't float anymore. It's got to be brought to the table. The money's there. The assets are there. They have to be declared. Otherwise, you're in violation of the law. And so, the truth will come out. And oftentimes, if you continue to point those things out, have you reached the division of the assets yet? Has that happened? Where are you in the process? These are the knowledgeable things that, you'll eventually learn more about as you go. Bruce, go ahead.
So I'm going to speak to what Jim said a little bit ago with taking 3 or 4 months to kind of get to the appointment stage in a relationship. And I agree. That's a sign of a great list that's seasoning really well. It takes some time. So I'm going to give some pros and cons there, and then I'm going to maybe contradict it a little bit. But the pros and cons on 3 to 4 months to your typical appointment, uh, cons are you got to work your leads a little bit longer. Pros are your competition has to work the leads a little bit longer, and your competitors won't do it. So you'll have more deals. Okay. Now, on the flip side, I'm going to say that it's just incredibly common for everyone, regardless of their timing and motivation and urgency. It's really common that every lead that you talk to is going to say, yeah, we're probably going to decide in 3 or 4 months. I hear that in probate all the time as well. And by all the time, I mean all the time. It's going to be 3 or 4 months before we decide. We haven't even talked about it. If I took that response at face value, I would miss out on so much business. I had someone in my neighborhood that was going through probate say that exact same thing less than 6 months ago. Okay, I'll follow up with you. I live in your neighborhood. I was out 2 days later walking my dog, and there was a sign in the yard. Okay, 2 days. So we're 3 to 4 months from deciding. 2 days later, house is for sale. So in divorce, maybe it does take families 3 or 4 months and couples 3 or 4 months before they get houses on the market. Maybe they're just saying that because that's an easy way to put you off. So you need to work on your skill set of how to pull the truth out of people and how to move toward low pressure commitment from them. Otherwise, you're gonna miss some deals that somebody else is gonna get because they're just a little bit better at uncovering the truth.
Okay. Sorry, I was off on another mission there for a second. Real quick, I saw that there we go. Well, Douglas, you go ahead. Unmute yourself there, bud.
Me? Hi. Oh, hi. We're sharing a computer.
Okay.
My name's Lorene. I had a question about the leads. In divorce, you have to get both the husband and the wife or the two spouses on the same page. So when you provide the leads, will you providing the phone numbers for both spouses?
Yes.
You'll have both. Okay. Thank you.
Tim, correct me if I'm mistaken. It's probably going to be a couple of likely phone numbers per person.
Yes, yeah, we give you enough that, I wish I could sit here and bring it up right now, and I'm not in front of that computer. But yeah, we give you both sets of contact information. We also give you, if in fact, depending on when they filed, we also give you the address of both of them so that you can mail to them as well, because oftentimes, as Bruce said earlier, maybe 6 months ago, they decided to do this and somebody moved out a while ago, but it took a while for them to actually file. And so we give you that second address as well. And the key thing there is that, again, filing is the key element. At the time the filing is done, stuff's happening. Somebody might have moved out already. That's a possibility, but you never really know, what's happening, except for the fact that when filing occurs, that's a signal event. Something's happening. That's when that property becomes, in transition in a lot of cases. And I'll quickly answer a question kind of similar to what, one of the things that was asked earlier about phone numbers. Roger from Florida asked, how do we know who to deal with in a divorce? And the reality is you deal with whoever you can talk with. You're there to have a conversation with whoever you can engage in a conversation. We try to give you as much info as we can to absolutely do that. So that's the point. You talk to whoever you can get to and whoever you can engage in conversation. That's why we give you both of them. So I hope that sort of answers the question there. Jody, are you on? I don't see you anywhere. If you're on, Jody, raise your hand and you'll pop up. Jessica, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just to pick up on one more thing that you kind of pointed at, Tim, was that someone may have already moved, out of the house fairly quickly, but that doesn't mean that the home still isn't going to be settled out at some point. Sometimes with the attorney fees, with, whatever else, again, with the division of assets, the sale of the home is what's actually going to be supplying the finances to be able to, take care of those pieces. And sometimes again, with you being able to come in and talk to them as an agent, people will drag out sometimes the divorce, and the attorneys are not shy about collecting. So it's kind of just, again, bringing them back down to reality and letting them know the longer you drag this out, your finances for the attorney payments and, motions and all the court stuff is just going to escalate even more. So even if you do divide the home and you sell the home, you're taking away less equity because you're dragging out the divorce. So just providing knowledge again, but yeah, just because someone moved out right away, that home still may need to be sold. And so it's just learning what their situation is and helping them through that piece to help liquidate that property even more quickly.
Okay. Yeah, very, very cool answer. Melissa, I think you had a question earlier, and I'm going to ask you to unmute. And if you don't mind, if you'll ask your question. She may have stepped away.
Hello, can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, awesome. So my question, oh, hello, everyone. My question was, I know that the approach is different for everyone and success rates. I just started and I wanted to hear some examples of what has worked for you in the beginning because I've only had one, but it was only for 1 month. So it gets a little discouraging. I'm helping my husband out. So I just wanted to hear some examples of what helped you in the beginning. I do take like the empathy approach, but I wanted to hear what if anybody had examples.
So you say you only had one. What does that mean?
I'm sorry.
You said you've only had one what?
Oh, I only had one lead from our first, so it's kind of discouraging. And I just wanted to know what worked for people because I'm hearing some great success rates.
Well, when you say though you've only had one lead, do you mean you've only had
Oh,
one person respond to you?
yes, yes.
That's
One call come in, yeah.
Is that was that a call came in from letters?
No, actually, Jessica is wonderful. And so we're getting our cards out, our letters out, all that. But no, it's from my list of calls that
Okay.
I had.
How
Yeah.
many
I
answers
got
have
one
you
as
had?
well.
I've had not many answers. I'm wondering if there's a different time, a certain time I should call. But I've only had maybe like 5 to 10 answers.
Okay.
I've gotten a lot of the hangups, but it's like when I tell them, "Hey, I'm a social worker, and I'm just helping out, but doing this on the side," then they're a little bit more, they'll listen a little bit more. But I do get hung up on a lot. However, I'm from California, so I have a 909 number. So my husband's going to do something a little bit different, so I can have a local number, and I'm wondering if that's kicking me out too.
I would say that that's probably not hurting you as bad as you might think. Maybe it's hurting you a little bit, but probably not a lot. If you've had 5 or 10 answers, that would indicate to me, and I don't know that this is necessarily the case, but it would indicate to me that you have maybe made 50 to 100 calls total. Um, and again, if it's 1,000 calls, let me know. Um, but generally speaking, when I'm on the phone, I'm gonna find 15% of my audience that engages with me on any round of calls. Sometimes it's less. There are days that I have 3% answer the phone. There are also days I have 25%. But in general, about 15%. So I like to do multiple calls to the same person in a day, maybe 2 or 3 calls in a round of calling. And generally speaking, I'm not bringing up the divorce. That's a trigger word for them, a trigger phrase for them. How do you know we're going through a divorce? So typically, I personally, and I know a lot of people are different, and if you guys do it differently and have success, keep doing what you're doing. You don't need to go with my approach, but I personally treat it like a circle prospecting call. Hey, I know this is totally out of the blue. I am trying to find the person that is either owns or is responsible for a house on 123 Main Street, and I, I've gotten a couple of wrong numbers today. I'm trying to figure out is that you by any chance? Yeah. Hey, listen, I represent a buyer, or I am a buyer, whatever you are, and I'm trying to find a property on that street that I can buy or that they can buy. Okay. Have you given any consideration to ever selling that at any point in the future? Okay. Really soft and slow. You're not mentioning divorce. If they say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going through a divorce," I go, "Oh, really? Okay. Well, I'm actually also divorce certified." Okay. I might say that maybe. Or I'm actually also a social worker. I am not a social worker, so I wouldn't say that. Um, so you could back into the divorce discussion if they bring it up. But that's how I would handle it. And when I call probate leads using the same approach, or different high equity leads or expired leads or whatever using the same approach, it's very unlikely that somebody's going to hang up on me. It's possible. Some people do. It's just not a high percentage of the time. So I would make a little adjustment like that.
Great. Thanks, Bud. And I'm sorry I didn't get your name the first time, but I'm clicking on it for Douglas, and I know that's not Douglas is doing it, but go ahead and ask your question. You have to unmute.
I think she said Evita, something
I
like
got
that.
it. Sorry. Yeah, you don't let mute in advance, so I forgot to unmute. So I had a question about the leads that are related to probate. But when somebody dies without a will, I've been dealing with something for almost 2 years. It's a bit of a nightmare. When they post what's happening, as far as like this one, they're trying to appoint a person, the representative for the estate. Will they show the names of all of the people inheriting? Or, or you're just gonna see the name of the person who's the proposed representative?
Mm. You'll get the attorney as well if the attorney was the one that filed probate.
Yes.
So if the attorney filed, you'll get the attorney's name and contact details as well. Quick side note, go Google the attorney's office phone number if you're going to call the attorney. So there will be a phone number. I wouldn't, with an attorney, I probably wouldn't want to call their cell phone. I would look at them and then look up their office number, and if it's different, I'd call the office, just because obviously attorneys are a little bit more litigious than the average person out there. And then you're also gonna generally get a list and phone numbers for some additional possible heirs. So maybe there's a spouse, an aunt, a sibling, a son, or a daughter. So you're going to get the personal representative's name and number, or numbers, along with sometimes two or three other people and phone numbers for them.
Now, will it specifically state if there is a property that's involved in the estate?
Tim, can I?
Yeah, it depends.
Yep.
Depends on
Okay.
your-
So, getting the property list is not data that is provided nationwide by courthouses. So, if you want the property data, you're going to need to add on a product called Property Plus, which does charge $2 extra per lead that you're running through that system. It goes through an extra set of steps to skip trace and try to identify with a pretty good accuracy rate, not 100%, but 85, 90% of those that have had property and have had property very recently. So it goes out and it says, "Hey, this is the decedent. What house does this person own, or did this person at least own within the last few months?" And that's how, if you want to really drill in on whether there's property, that's how you would do that. You could do that through your own tax record search. I wouldn't recommend that because a lot of times people own more than one property. You could just look up the address of the decedent last known address, and see what it was.
Yeah.
Or you could call everyone. I call everyone, and I use my phone call to kind of weed out They'll just tell me, yeah, no, we don't own that house. Okay. Nothing else in as part of the estate that might be settled. No, there was no property. Somewhere in the range of 25% of your leads will not have property. Just be prepared for that.
Right.
But
And
but a
Bruce,
high
the other thing
percentage
is,
will.
yeah, the other thing to remember is that it's not just that property. When the person passed away, what Property Plus does is that we go in and we find property they owned anywhere in the country. So typically you may find that particularly if you're in a marketplace where there are a lot of folks retire, they'll own property, not where they live. That's one part of it. The other thing is that oftentimes the last known address for the person who passed away could be assisted living. They could be living with a relative. They're all those things, and they did own property, and that's really the value of it. If you find it there, one of the things that people often get great value in probate out of it is that they find that a person passed away in Boca Raton, Florida, and they owned an apartment or a condo in New York City. So you've got the opportunity to do a referral there by working with that family to do that and get a referral commission, or find another agent to work with up there, or another investor. Lots of opportunity. Control those transactions by asking those questions. And those are the important kind of things to realize. I've got Jody on for a second. I want to answer one quick question. Jody, we had somebody asking about aged expireds, and they just simply wanted to know, how do they pursue them as an investor, not an agent? And he had an answer for that, and I know the answer as well. And I was going to talk about this on the call, and the point being that, we had originally said, well, aged expireds is a pretty much an agent-based product. And the reality is that if that property not come back on the market, and in fact has not been relisted, it may be that they are absolutely open to an investor wanting to buy that property coming up. And Jody, you're going to talk about what you were going to answer. Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly it's a great lead site for either realtors or investors. It's just, could we provide them in your county is going to depend on a few things. For realtors, 100% nationwide, but for investors, there's going to be some factors there. I think probably the best thing to do, and I'll put my phone number and email in the chat, is if there are investors interested, is to reach out to me, and we'll talk about it and see if we can get them there for you.
Cool beans. That's great. And you can go jump on your other call that I drug you out of to come on here if you need to.
No worries. Thank you.
No problem. Coley, I'll get to you in just a second. And same with Jim and Steve. We also said in our email that we're going to talk about some coaching opportunities. We've also got some employment opportunity to talk about coming up as well. We're going to talk about both of those towards the end of the call. I want to kind of step through this. We've only got about we've got 13 minutes left to get us to the top of the hour. Coley, I'm going to take your question, and we're going to spend the last little bit of this kind of talking about some opportunities we have as a company that we want to share with you and talk to you about. We're looking for some help from you. Coley, where'd your hand go there, bud? Did you leave? There you are. Go ahead.
Hey everybody. So my question is more geared towards probate and then also the divorce leads. So my question is regarding a living trust. So I spoke with a client. She says we're not selling anytime soon, and the house is in the trust. I don't feel like houses and living trusts are like a toss off, but I feel like they're still a fair game. What are your thoughts about pursuing properties that are protected by trust? And my secondary question about the divorce leads is, are you considering offering a course like Probation Foundations that you did for probate leads, similar to divorce leads? Because that'll be a selling point for me for sure.
I will talk about that at the very end of the call. That's exactly where we're going. Great setup.
Nice.
Steve Carney, you were nodding as Coley was asking. Go ahead, speak
No,
up.
I think with a trust, you still, like Bruce said, they're going to do something with it. So I wouldn't give up on it. I would continue to nurture that, and it may not be right away. Additionally, with expireds, for those who are doing creative real estate, that's something that I do, where you have a delayed cash out sale. That also is a great pond to fish in. I mean, you get a lot of, admittedly, with realtors, they're calling. But a lot of times people, they don't want to list. For whatever reason, they don't want to pay the fee. And if you can work around that, you can purchase it, great. It's finding out what their goals are. So clearly, if they want to list, by all means, you want to make that happen. But there are other ways. And many people aren't aware that they can sell their house through creative financing, 3-5 years, depending on where they are. And for tax purposes or estate planning, there's a whole host of things that go with that, that provides them with options they may otherwise not be aware of. So that's something else to consider too, for those who also do that kind of investing, more than just probate. If you're a creative person subject to lease purchase, it's a great option.
Great. Is that what you raised your hand about?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, bud. Jimmy, you'd had your hand up.
Yeah, just you were talking about whether there's property and whether it's sold or not. I just always, when we talk about that, I always want to mention we've had numerous subscribers over the years tell us that they just asked that extra question when they found somebody who either didn't have real estate or it was already sold. Realize you're talking to somebody who just inherited a significant amount of money, and they ask them that extra question. Oh, great, good for you. Do you have any real estate needs coming up? They may have just inherited a couple $100,000 and they're ready to list their house and buy a better one. They may want to buy rental property. So as long as you got them on the phone and you're involved in a conversation, don't quit there. Ask them an extra question or two. There may still be some business there.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about what I said I was going to talk about here and towards the end of this. And then if we have time, we'll take any more questions that we have. But I didn't want to get to the end of the hour and not have done this. Appreciate you guys sticking around. So we're growing. Our business is growing. Our company's growing. We are, ever thankful for all of you who, show up every week. And, we see a lot of the same faces and a lot of new faces. And, it's gratifying to see this grow. And the thing that I think I enjoy the most about this is the sharing that goes on. We hear from a lot of people on this call that, ask great questions and have great responses. And our coaches are very giving of their energy and time. And, we've got some great minds on the call. We need some more minds. We are expanding. Obviously, Coley asked a great question. What are we doing about doing some of the similar things that we do with probate in regard to training and coaching and all those things? And Bruce has kind of been the maven and focuses very much on probate and certainly has a wide experience in all of real estate. But Bruce is one guy and we've got to grow. And so we're definitely going to put together a training class, at least in the very beginning, to get the foundations of this out of the way on divorce so that we can get that done. And you can see from this call, we could probably stay another hour on this call and get a whole bunch more questions that people are running into, because there are a lot of nuances about divorce we haven't even touched on yet. Jessica brought up a lot of things that are experience related that, go on in the course of a divorce. The other thing is that there's a lot of state by state difference in regard to how divorce is treated. Different states have different weightings based on the rights of the husband, the rights of the spouse, how much weight do the children have in how it's settled. So there's a lot of nuance in there. So we've opened up a page on our website on the public side called Careers. And if you'd like to work with us as a coach, if you've got some expertise, hop in there and just put your interest in there. Let us know you might be interested in doing it. There's value in it. We compensate you for doing it. We'll take care of your lead process and give you all sorts of wonderful things for doing that. And we'll do it based on kind of what time you have available to serve and to offer. And we'll help get you trained as well so that you're delivering the message that we think is most important to our folks. The other thing is that we are growing in other ways. We have reached the point now with new product offerings and the things that we're doing that, frankly, we've got more opportunity than we can service. We're not doing the job that we need to with our existing folks to be able to get to everyone who wants to hear from us. So we're looking for some sales folks. Same place to go. If you know someone that you're working with, if someone in your office or someone in your RIA group is, maybe struggling or maybe looking for something else to do, that, things are, you just know they're good people, or, anybody that you can think of that might be a great salesperson for us. We have a great opportunity. Our existing people make really good money doing what they're doing, but more importantly, they serve well. They're knowledgeable about what they're doing, and we've spent a lot of time cultivating the knowledge base that they have. And so we're looking for additional people. And if you know of someone, or, if even you have some interest in potentially working with us, fill that out and we'll give you a buzz. We'll talk to you about it. Same thing for the coaching. The site is www.alltheleads.com/careers. And it's a simple form. We're not looking for a lot of data. If you have a resume and you want to drop that in there, or someone wants to, that's fine. It's not necessary. We'll call everyone back that fills it out. But we wanted to reach out to this group first, and anyone who's listening to us online and who'll hear this podcast going forward, because you're the best people that we could possibly extend this offer to. You're the folks that deal with this every day, and you've got the experience necessary to get this done. So if you know people, or, it's within your ability to, contribute a few hours a week to helping other people grow from a coaching standpoint, or, you're looking to do something different. Maybe you're a buyer's agent, and things are challenging for you today. And I'm not saying that you should be challenged. I'm saying there's lots of stuff going on. So www.alltheleads.com/careers. Give that some thought, and if you've got interest, we're a pretty good company to work with. We talked a little bit about the things that we offer and what we do, and we take really good care of our people. So we'd like to extend the opportunity for you or other folks to join us in our endeavors together and help us grow together. That's my message in regard to that. Having said that, I will once again open the floor to anybody that's got questions, observations, or anything else. Feel free to ask them. Raise your hand and stand up and you'll be recognized. If you don't have that, I'll also kind of just go around, and I'll also say this to the rest of the folks that are on here with our coaches. Be aware that we are learning along with you in regard to divorce. And I'm certainly not too proud to say that. When we started on the probate side, we had some experience with it, but not a lot. It was a relatively new arena for us. There, probate leads or inheritance leads been floating around for a while, and we feel that we, honed the art form down pretty well, and then we provided a bunch of infrastructure around the leads, around the support, around the training, around the mailing, around the calling, around the website of it. So we've built a huge practice around that. We're going to be doing the same thing with divorce. And we learned what we needed to do and what we needed to provide by simply doing it. We learn a lot from these calls. 490, is that the number this week, Jim?
490.
Yeah.
490. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, at least 490 hours of our lives, and a lot of them have gone on longer than that. So certainly well over 500 hours of our lives have been devoted to this call over the last decade, almost the last decade. And we've learned so much by doing that. And Bruce will tell you the same thing is true from Probate Mastery. You learn more by teaching than you do by preparing to teach. And that's really the vital ingredient here. We want to learn from you, and, we're going to turn it back around. If nothing else, we're a catalyst. And that's kind of the important part of this, is to be that catalyst so that, the things that we're finding, and we're sharing the information coming from everybody else. Jessica, you had your hand up there, kiddo.
Yep, just one more quick piece. I know we talked a lot today about calling leads, regardless of the lead source, but don't forget there's more resources to marketing. So you want to get in front of them. You want to make sure that you're staying consistent with it, whether it's letters, postcards, online presence. You want to be searchable. You want to be findable. You want to know that you're getting your message out to those leads. So just a quick message, if you're a subscriber with us, if you're not with us, reach out to us. We have marketing, we've done the research, we've been doing this for years. So we have those products available that provide that message, and it's very easy. So reach out to us, let us give you the opportunity to see what we have and what we can put together for you, so that you can really get your voice out there and your message out there to those leads to increase your volume of return and contact rate. So just wanted to throw that out there as well, because marketing is just more than phone calls.
You got absolutely.
Tim, Randy Nichols is waving his hand. You have to do it electronically, Randy. Raise it electronically. I see you've been waving for about 5 minutes, sir. Unmute yourself if you had something you wanted to say, please.
Oh, okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, hey, Jim, nice to see you. By the way, Jim, how's the good-looking blonde?
My wife?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
I want to ask you, gentlemen, this is a little bit off the topic, but it has to do with leads, and that's why we're all here. I'm having my assistant recently look up garage sales, and I just started calling them literally this week. Does anybody have any good stories about if garage sales, calling them works, or any kind of feedback at all?
You mean for
calling garage sales for people who are considering selling?
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting, maybe you're thinking that maybe a symptom of them getting ready to sell. Is that it?
That's right.
Hey, Randy, I'll tell you real quick, a couple of years ago, I think we used to tell people, hire a good estate sale company and they would, get rid of the valuables and then they would do a yard sale. And we used to tell our agents, you don't really need to be there for the yard sale, until we had a guy tell us he showed up for the yard sale. He stood in the front yard and he listed 3 more properties in the neighborhood. So that is a story that I remember where we changed our mind on that. It's a great way because people are coming to you to meet all the friends and neighbors. And Winston had to come in too.
Yep.
I was just going to confirm what Jim just said, and it's true because this happened to me. I have found estate sale companies to be a great source of potential listings, and I've never really called on garage sale guys, but I have visited garage sales and kind of saw what was going on and looked at the house and found out who the owner was. It just started a casual conversation, and it has gotten me business. I haven't done it consistently, but when I did do it, it worked. So I would encourage it.
That's a great idea. And Randy, thanks for bringing that up, man. That's a good one. I appreciate that. Hey, we got one other question that I do need to answer before we get off. And where did it just go? I had it here in front of me. There we go. Evan asked, Evan said, came in via Facebook, I guess, that he spoke to an attorney's office regarding probate leads that he's bought. And it says, it seems like some realtors get a hold of the executors, end up listing the house. Should I contact executors instead of attorney? Obviously, if you're getting the leads from us, we certainly encourage you to contact the personal representative. That's why we give you that, and that's very much where you should be focusing your energy. Certainly, it's great to contact the attorneys and do that, and look at the attorneys who are in fact, listing or are in fact providing services to the larger number of people in your market. As you sort your leads and you look for the attorney that appears frequently as the attorney of record on probate, that's an attorney you might want to get in front of. But the attorney's not necessarily going to sell you the house unless they're also the personal representative for the estate. The personal representative is the person who can, in fact, sell you the house or put the house up for listing. So definitely you need to focus on that. And if you've got some other questions with that, you certainly want to do that. Also, Elizabeth pointed out, is build that relationship with the attorney. They're going to refer the clients, and that's absolutely correct. That's why you want to build that relationship. So anyway, that's very important. And Evan also said Evan has gotten business from an estate sale before. So that's a really great topic. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. We learn from you guys. I know Jim had been reaching out to estate sale companies nationally, and our challenge in getting them engaged, we've always felt like they potentially be a great source for us, but maybe in a different way. This is a potentially great opportunity, Jim, the other way around. They're getting the business in advance. They may be a great referral for us to pull some lead sources together. So we ought to talk about that too, because that might be a different way to approach those folks on a national basis. So guys, we're well over the top of the hour. It's been a really good call. I'd like you to remember the www.alltheleads.com/careers, opportunities for coaching, opportunities for sales. Both of them can provide some good money for you as well as people you care about. And we appreciate you being here. Jim, I think it's time for you to do your annual speech, bud.
Annual, how about weekly?
Well, that's true. It is weekly.
For the 490th time, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today. I want to particularly thank those that actively participated: Stephen, Coley, Melissa, Alexa, Jessica, Randy, Winston, Evan, as well as Jody, Bruce, Tim, Steve, and Aline, not Aileen. We appreciate all of you guys. We really do. We appreciate the great participation. And I want to challenge each of you, take one thing that inspired you on this call, go out and put it into practice, and please come back next Thursday and share the results with the group. Have a great week, everybody. Same time next Thursday. Take care.
Have a good August. Bye-bye.